Well, I'm just working on this a little bit, and I didn't want to work on it off camera because then you wouldn't see what happened. So I guess this will go on YouTube. I was just looking here. Decided to put a little bit more shape in here. Now that this area has dried, I can come in with more darks. And you will notice the white of the eye right here, that it needs to have a shadow there. So, I have some of this color from before that's got a little bit more Quin Gold in it. And I'm going to use a little bit of that here in this eye area. Go ahead and get a little bit more shadow in here. And then there's a little bit more shadow. There's a little darker area within this shadow under the eye. And there is, oh yeah, I wanted to get more shadow down here. So I'm bleeding the extra water off of here except on the tip. I was so excited to go get my COVID shot today. Everybody in there was happy. The guy asked me as he's fixing to stick my arm how I was doing. I almost cried. I couldn't talk, but he couldn't tell because I had a mask on. I'm going to let that dry like that, and we'll see what that does. All these areas in here on the beard, there's just areas that have to get a little bit darker. I'll use some of my black mix here, black and red mix, and I'm thinning it out. There. So let's just look at some of these areas. There's a little bit more of a dark area in here. It kind of defines the side of the face from the chin right there. I'm not following exact beard hairs in here. You know, every now and then there might be a hair that provides special interest, but the major thing is just to keep it looking natural, which means it can't be too repetitive, because repetitive is not natural. Well, it depends on the situation, but generally repetitive doesn't look that natural. Just put a little bit more right there. Okay, so let's work on the shadow under the nose, right across here. That needs to get darker. I'm going to come across the nose this way, up here and down and over some, and then into this same shadow that I've already done here before, which has some spaces in it following the mustache layer. Okay, so if you try to do everything at once to get all the shapes in before you let something dry and build on top of it. By the way, that went in too far into his highlight on his nose. That's not going to look accurate at all. Okay, I may have to lift right there to make me happy. Well, let's just keep playing. So I've got this mixture. Can y'all see that? Yeah, okay. And there's this area around the outside of the mustache, which has more shadow on it than the mustache does. So I'm going to have to integrate that part of the mustache together. There, so you see I put that in. Now all I got to do is soften the edges, which today means pretty fast because of the way everything is drying. By the way, I have an area up here that needs lifting or something. Just totally unacceptable. It wouldn't be if I was doing a lot of hard edges, but I'm not on this one. So, this part right here on the mustache is dry. I'll see how it looks when I get some shadows into it here. So I don't want to cover this whole beard and mustache with lines. But I do need some in some places. Yeah, that's kind of working there. Let's skip around because that needs to dry. Let's skip around and we'll go up here and work around this eye. Oh, I really need to lift. Well, we'll go ahead and do this. So this area, the eyebrow, I've got kind of a mid-tone wash here. It's not one of the real dark washes. Whoa. Well, it looks kind of dark, doesn't it? Oh, I guess I better do something. Okay, I've got some lines drawn right in here. I better stop right there and soften some edges. Because things are drying so fast right now with the heat running. And then out here, I just want to lighten the edges enough that it kind of fades in so that it doesn't stand out later when I work on top of it. And let's see, let's put the bag under his eye. He does have bags under his eyes. I mean, he has noticeable bags under his eyes. If he was smart enough to wear glasses like me, he could hide those. That'll do. Looks funny right there because I don't have other stuff done under here. Well, let's see, this is kind of wet, but yeah, I best stop working on that area and let that dry. So let's see what we can do about this up here. Now here's the problem. If this area was white, didn't have a tone in it, we could just lift that edge and all would be well. But right now, if we lift and we lift this too, I'm going to get damage. I just was not on my toes when I was working on this part. So probably the best I can do is weaken this edge. I'll be happy with that. I don't mind some line edges. In fact, I like them. It's just that I wasn't treating this piece like that. And so having it in just one place just doesn't read right. So he's got a highlight over his eyebrow because he's got that little masculine ridge there. His isn't real strong. My dad didn't have one at all. Well, that's in there pretty good, not wanting to come up. Okay, that's probably enough right there, because I'm going to put more darks in, so that's going to take care of that. Maybe I'll work on this just a little bit. Boy, I'm just barely, I'm not doing any real rubbing. I'm doing that touch down and pull up, touch down and pull up, like that kind of stroke. And, oh, we got this business on the tip of the nose. That might really not be so bad once I get more darks in here. I'll just try to get a little bit pulled up right there. Oh, yeah, that's enough. And I really didn't get a bad spot into my, into this area, which that was more important, because if I did that, that's a little harder to fix. Okay, so I've worked on it a little bit. I guess I'll do just a tiny bit more before I take a break. So this ear is way darker, and it looks, it's almost a flat tone plus just a couple of shadows, kind of like that ear. So I'm going to follow very carefully along the edge of his head, because this is defining the shape of his cheekbone right there. And I'm working juicy, so it's just flowing in and making kind of a nice flat boring wash. And I'm happy with a nice flat boring wash there. Now this comes up into the hair, which dips in a little bit right there. I'm just going to do, I could keep on working here. Oh, maybe I'll work a little more. So I want this hairline to follow the shape that it does on his head, and I want the look of some individual hairs there at the very edge. The rest of it, though, I kind of fill in. And I think I'll just go that far and fade it out. I wouldn't mind having a little bit of not a fuzzy edge, but a little of a broken up edge, like that's individual hairs there. That may be getting just a little too into detail there to do that. Yeah, let's leave that alone. Okay, I'm going to stop right there for now and take a break. Maybe take a break for a day. This is just Friday. Okay, so here, I'll hold him up like this for a minute, just because I've been reminded that I should do that more often, and I think that's a very good reminder. Be sure to let me know if you have suggestions. Some of them I can fulfill, and some of them I can't do. I really can't change my camera position here, not unless I just go out and buy another setup, and I don't really see doing that at this time. So the thing is that now that we've got these darks in here, although this still isn't finished, I'll do that part off camera, though. You know, I need to put some more dark shapes in on top of part of this. Look at the background. You know, this one is just richer still. And you can see that his skin in here is lighter than the background. And here, well, it's a little bit lighter, but not that much. I'm going to deepen that background, and it may not look like this one. But I've got my Quin Gold. It's probably contaminated with a little bit of red from before. I've got my Quin Gold and some black in it. I think I have enough black. Let's test it and see how it looks. Whoa, well, that's so strong I can't tell. I believe that I might need more black. Oh, yeah. Yep, more black. I'm just going for an approximate. So, oh, no paper towels. Never start work without a paper towel handy. Okay. Oh, I think that'll work. So it looks pretty dark now compared to that. And I may get a little darker than that. I would be okay with that. But it's going to dry a lot lighter. And this actually gets lighter as it goes up. And then the top of his head crops off right here. I've got a little more paper than I do image over here. And it's important not to, there I could probably make that up, but it's pretty important not to just stretch your figure out to fit the paper. You wind up with these people that look like cone heads and things sometimes. It's really strange looking. Okay, I think, particularly by the time that's dry, that is going to look, that's going to look pretty good. Right now it feels a little bit bright because of the Quin Gold, but the fact is that it always dries duller than that. So, okay, let's come over here and do the same thing, except I might make a few changes. I'm going to turn it this way just because it's easier for me. And oops, I just ran over the ear. I wonder why. Well, it's because when I looked at the photo again, I realized that some of these darkest areas in here, that the lightest area in some of these darkest areas here are about like this. And so I think I need to, whoops, well, I think I need to bring some more of this color into the face. You know, once you get started on something like this, and then it's going well, and then you decide to do something that feels a little drastic. Sometimes it can be a little scary, and sometimes it can be awful. I'll have to admit, sometimes it can turn out awful. Let's just pull in some. No, I don't want to go too far in. This will get darker, but not maybe with this. And, well, if I do that, I want to do it with at a different time. This is sort of doing some big stuff. Let's just do that much to it. And gee, that looks so dark. Of course, it's on top of a darker area, but I'm going to soften this edge, because remember, I put this on so juicy that I have time to come back and soften pretty easily. I think I want to soften that edge even more. Look what I'm doing here. See, I'm brushing through it and pulling a little bit out, and then I'm softening that. Let's see how that does. might leave that edge crisp. You got to be careful, because if you're working with a round brush, it can go and let down water that you didn't intend. But if you're working really juicy, you're probably going to be all right. Now, see, I can squeeze that out. And see, I'm just coming along here and kind of tickling that edge and talking to it ever so nicely about, please don't screw up. There. Okay, let's let that dry. Well, darn, it did come out darker than I meant. Look at that. But now that I think about it, I like that lighter top. So I'm going to show you another thing that I like to do. It probably won't be consistent with this anymore, but this is a good time to do this. So I've got my magic sponge here. Let's see how this acts. So this is dry right now, but I'm adding quite a bit of water to it, and let's see. One of the things that you can get sometimes is you get these like neat looking brush strokey things happening. I think that probably this isn't going to do it that well, because I would need to be adding another color, and I'm not going to do that here. Oh well. Well, in that case, I could do a smoother lift than this. Like that. I still lifted too hard in one spot. So this is going to go over some of what I've done, because I'm not going to try to corral it there in just the background. But let's see, I'll slow down right here when I get to the ear, but I'll just paint the hair back in. There. Okay, so that spot there is a little bit lighter, looks a little uneven. I suppose I could actually put a little color back in there if I wanted to. Yeah, where I got that a little bit too light. I was going to show you something different, but I really didn't have enough color down here to do that. I just thought maybe I could. Okay. So there. That's not too bad. All right. What are we going to do next? Well, I got that all wet, so I'm not going to mess with that. So let's work in this area. And when I first walked back to this and looked at it, there was one place in particular that was bothering me a little extra. Or that is, it wasn't bothering me. I just need to do something here. See these little creases in the forehead? What we want to do is we want to be real careful that we don't exaggerate those. But you can see that there's shading along the edge of them. Okay, let's see if we can recreate that. I've got some color here that I was using the other day on his face, so I assume that it's going to be just right. And I just want to pick up some little light area. The thing that people tend to do, people, students, unstudents, anybody, almost anybody, is they tend to want to make wrinkles too dark and treat them like hard-edged lines. Wrinkles really aren't like that. Let's see, here's his eyebrow. His eyebrow's coming out this way. Let's give it a few extra hairs there, I think. And then he's got this little thing coming right along there and here. See how pale I'm keeping that? I can darken it later if I want. Okay, I'm getting darker right here. So there is a shadow area that's connected to it and that connects into the eyebrow. I like that. Well, that's just a little bit, needs a little work at the edges. Let's just very carefully work that back. I don't have quite enough water on the brush. There we go. Right there, I think. I could come back and deepen that some more in a little bit if I decide I want to. Oh, let's see. I want to go up here. That's got too much yellow in it for this part of him. So over here, this thing comes out. And then there's a little line goes almost straight up. And it doesn't have quite the same weight behind it. It goes up a little higher, and there's actually a little second spot here. It goes up right there. So that might be a little too dark. I don't know. Let's break through it here. Dried really, really fast. I had the, in fact, I have water boiling on the stove right now, I think. Trying to keep the humidity up. This is too stark of an edge here. And I think part of what's wrong with it is that I've got some of these areas too solid. I don't like going back and breaking up by lifting places like this because you get softer edges and it kind of damages the design quality. But I can't leave his beard like that. Sometimes I get carried away and then I have regrets later. Yes, I need to break up a little more of that. So basically I'm lightening some areas. I'm really not trying to make like little beard strokes. That's just pretty hard to make that work with a lifting brush. Yeah. Now, this needs to have shadow on it. That's another reason this looks so stark, harsh, is his beard's really funny there. I mean, it's got a little tail on it out over here instead under here. Maybe an Indian got hold of him. Let's put all of that in a little more shadow. Well, it's going to have more than that done to it, but that'll it needs an overall shadow too, and so does this area here. Just adding a little water there, breaking up some edges. So I'm looking at it, and I'm seeing this spot right here. Let's see, are these both? Yeah, it's both on camera. So this little area right in here is darker. And again, all of this in here has got a little more shadow on it. There's a few hairs there that have stayed a little bit lighter, but I think I'm going to shade, I don't know. Maybe I won't shade all of it. Maybe I will leave a few light spots. Looks so much more golden. I guess I've got more red in that. Let's let that dry and see what it looks like. Just picking up little bits of color and playing with this. Some of this is just building in more shading than individual hairs. We'll need some other marks in here too, probably. So what these little darks that I'm making are, they're not beard hairs, they're the shadows between some hairs. That's just almost too regular there. Let's just break that up a little bit. Kind of blending it together a little bit more. We'll come back on that. Okay. Let's work over in here. There is a little area there that I like, where I want to leave some lights. Some of this is, there's beard. Now I'm putting a stroke in that is dark. Dark little thin fuzzies on the outside edge of his face. And connecting to a darker area that's coming up in here that is, oh, there's probably some hair there, some skin there, a lot of skin. Well, let's blend some of this. This is skin here. Well, some of both. You know, if I can't tell, I just do what I see. I don't have to have a definition of what it is. Sometimes I think requiring a definition or thinking we need a definition means that we don't really do what we see, but what we think we ought to see, and that gets us into trouble. That's the left brain jumping in there and telling you the wrong thing. This area is lighter in here. It's not that much lighter. Let's do something about like that. Okay. So he's got this reflected light right here along the side of his head. And that looks like that's pretty light, but it's not. It's at least that dark. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave this tone here and we're going to work around it. And I've got paint that is pretty strong. See, that was dry. The one workshop I attended to with this Joe Fettingus, he called this creamy paint. You know, when you slide it around like that, it kind of stays kind of, you know, your strokes kind of stay there because it doesn't all flood back with water. That's strong enough to be creamy. So that's, he called that cream. So let's do this. Oh, I don't know. Let's make a soft edge on that. I'm doing this the chicken careful way. So I want almost a line there, but I want it to have a slightly softened edge. I don't want it to look like a line. Not really. Okay. Let's go work up over here for a while and let that dry. Well, you know what? First, let's put his ear in. Ooh, that's way too strong. His ear still needs to be considerably darker. Remember, that ear is also negative space in that it's defining the edge of his cheek. Well, that looks funny right now, but it won't later. And actually, the hair comes down about this far. Because this can all just almost blend together. This is dry enough up here. I could put some of this back in. I'm going to have to mix some more of this color up. That is, I'll mix something close to it up. I'll never get it exact. Okay, let's mix some color. If I'd been being really precise about this, what I would have done is I would have saved that color and mixed some color in a different slot and then tried to match them. Well, I still had something there to match too. But of course I didn't do that. Why be smart about it? Oh, that's kind of reddish brown. That'll do. There's always a lot of paint left in that brush. I like to try and get the last of it out. Waste not. Okay. You know, that little wrinkle right here could actually get a tiniest bit darker. Oh, well, that's too dark. Oh, that's way too dark there. So we're going to blot it. I think I blotted everything up. You know what? That needs a little bit more shadow. Contour shadow. Let's go with that. This could get even darker in here as it's going to get darker over there. So I'm adding in pretty much the last of the darks here. I think there is a little extra thick area, a little extra dark area there where the skin is sagged down over the eyelid. And I see a little bit of an extension of that eyelid there. Under the eye is probably about right. That should stay the way it is. You don't want to soften every edge. You soften some edges sometimes. I think this needs to get a little darker right there. Okay, let's go over here. Now, that brow looks like he's frowning too much. See where this dips down that way? Well, his brow's not doing that. See, it arches upward. I simply don't have enough on the top of his eyebrow. See, I had him looking like he was really mad at somebody. You know, just you begin to learn that just tiny little shifts in things can really change a person's demeanor. And I think you get better at reading faces and paying attention to certain kinds of things. I hear we women are better at that anyway. Not meaning to pick on anybody, of course. Well, now I've pulled this out onto the nose. I've got to do something with that. I can't leave that there. So what we need is we need to just soften these edges along here. This is going to run into this dark area coming down along this way. But for now, I'm going to give it that. Okay, squeeze that brush out so I can pick up some fairly strong paint. I no longer have creamy paint here because when I mixed new paint in, I got more water into it. So, you know, I have to work a little differently than I was before. Your paint doesn't have to be exactly a certain way because you also adjust with your brush work as you're working. I'll put all that. You notice I did some little series of straight lines there. I didn't do a curve. I did some little straight lines to arrive at this lid. It makes for a better look, and it's generally more accurate, actually. When you can use a straight line, you know, sort of straight, do. I'd rather see a series of little straight lines any day. Now, I'm trying to get his pupil in about the same place as his other pupil. Ah, dear. All right, let's work around that for now. All of this needs to get a lot darker. So this area right here under the eye. Well, he looks pretty severe with that pupil like that, doesn't he? Let's just pull some of that up. Oh dear. I wanted to keep adding water here, actually. I was going to put in a separate wrinkle there. And it's not going real well. I got a little bit of it there. I'll come back to that because it's best off to let these things dry some. Sometimes you don't have to let them dry all the way, and sometimes it's important to thoroughly dry wash. Let's see. So this is an individual hairs, although I'm stroking in that direction and it'll look a little like it. But what we're going to do, obviously that looks pretty severe. He really doesn't have a lot of the outer third of his eyebrow anymore. See over here? I don't think. So the thing is, I'm going to pull this color down. And what we're looking at right here, this top blending, even that is going to break up some as it goes up here into this shape. All right, let's soften those edges, especially that one. This edge, we're just softening because we're going to move it into there. So a bit of reflected light goes here. I almost covered it up. Now I've got to either pick working the top or the bottom. I'm going to work the bottom. It's a little easier. Ah, here we go. Well, I guess I'll just keep on going with this. Here I might actually make strokes that are a little more like beard. The direction his beard would be growing, because maybe some of that is beard. I can't tell. I don't care. Okay, I'm not working very fluid here. See, I'm a little streaky looking because I wasn't working just wet enough. But I think it kind of works between his rough skin and the beard. That might work, but let's work a little wetter down here. All of this gets darker coming up here. I'm going to get a background there if I don't work with that, because I'm working wetter here and I never dried this over there. Okay, so let's just, this is a place where we come to an edge, so that's a place where we could stop it. We need to keep it going over, but right now we're going to have to talk to this very carefully. There's a little bit more shape comes up under here. Now this doesn't stay that light either, but I'm going to stop right there for the moment. And soft edge, definitely soft edge here. Well, this is one of those places that just gets soft edges all around. I know I said not to do that, but, you know, there are times. This is still not anywhere near dark enough. So we'll break that up a little bit. So we won't quite fill in all the darks that I had there with more darks. And that way, it'll look more like a beard. This area's got to get darker too. But again, you don't have to fill in all of that area with the extra dark. And that'll make it much more believable. I think I need a little bit more of an overall shadow over here. So I'll have to come back again, because this needs more shadow like that. See, it really doesn't balance with the other side. Oh, I guess I could go ahead and put it in. So all I'm doing now, I've got the dark paint, but all I'm going to do is add water to some of this, soften some of the edges, you know, pull a little of it down. And then we'll have to come back and do more to it in a little bit. Okay. Yeah, it's coming along. It's coming along. Let's get him some more darks on his nose while we're at it. This little area under the nose, right in under here. That's the place I want. I want come in here, right to there, down. You know, and if this bothers you, don't forget you could always come in with a pencil and mark that first, but you'd have to want to do it real, real lightly. We've got a lot more left to do. I'm going to hold him up like that. Okay, because I'm trying to remember to do that more often. Okay.